Is the Helper, in John chapter 14 verse 16, the third person of the Trinity? John chapter 14 verse 16. And I will ask the Father, and he will give you another Helper, that he may be with you to the age. According to the Trinity faith, they say, teach and believe the Helper, in John chapter 14 verse 6, is the third and a separate person of the Trinity. Let's be sure with what the Trinitarians say, believe and teach by going to Matthew Paul's commentary. That term, another, signifieth the personal distinction of the third from the first and second person in the Blessed Trinity. Is the Trinity faith correct? Is the Helper, in John chapter 14 verse 16, the third and separate person of the Trinity? Let's have a look at the Word of God. Jesus said, and I will ask the Father, and he will give you another Helper, that he may be with you to the age. The question is, and who will be another Helper? Was Jesus talking about himself as being the Helper? Is the answer in 1 John chapter 2 verse 1. Let's have a look. My little children, I am writing these things to you so that you might not sin. And if anyone should sin, we have an advocate with the Father, Jesus Christ the righteous one. Did you see that? We have an advocate with the Father, Jesus Christ the righteous one. Could the Helper, in John chapter 14 verse 6, be the same advocate in 1 John chapter 2 verse 1? Let's now have a look at the Greek word for advocate, in 1 John chapter 2 verse 1, and see what we discover. As we see, the Greek word John chapter 14 verse 16 for helper. Let us now have a look at the Greek word in 1 John chapter 2 verse 1, saying advocate, and see what we discover. As we have seen, the Greek word for advocate, in 1 John chapter 2 verse 1, is the identical Greek word for helper in John chapter 14 verse 16. Let's now move forward to the next part in John chapter 14 verse 16, saying, that he may be with you to the age. Who could Jesus be referring to by saying, that he may be with you to the age? Is the answer in Matthew chapter 28 verse 20. Teaching them to observe all things, whatever I commanded you. And behold, I am with you all the days, until the completion of the age. Did you see that? John chapter 14 verse 16 says, that he, Jesus, may be with you, to the age. And in Matthew chapter 28 verse 20, we also read Jesus saying, and behold, I am with you all the days, until the completion of the age. Let's now continue to move forward to verse John chapter 14 verse 17, saying the Spirit of truth, whom the world is not able to receive, because it does not see him nor know. Who could John chapter 14 verse 17 be referring to saying, the Spirit of truth, whom the world is not able to receive, because it does not see him nor know? Is the answer in John chapter 1 verse 10. Let's have a look. The true light who enlightens every man was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world came into being through him, came to pass, and the world did not know him. He came to the own, and the own did not receive him. Did you see that? And the world did not know him. He came to the own, and the own did not receive him. John chapter 1 verse 10 is telling us the same as we read in John chapter 14 verse 17, saying, the Spirit of truth, whom the world is not able to receive, because it does not see him nor know. Let's again move forward to the next part in verse John chapter 14 verse 17, saying, but you know him, for he abides with you and he will be in you. Who could Jesus be referring to saying, but you know him, for he abides with you? Well, I think we can all agree Jesus is referring to himself and the disciples. He abides with you, Jesus. We continue, John chapter 14 verse 17, and he will be in you. Who is Jesus referring to by saying, and he will be in you? Let's turn to John chapter 14 verse 23. Jesus answered and said to him, if anyone loves me, he will keep my word, and my Father will love him, and we will come to him and will make a home with him. Did you see that? And we will come to him and will make a home with him. But there is more in the very next verse of John chapter 14 verse 18 saying, "I will not leave you as orphans. I am coming to you." John chapter 14 verse 18. Who is Jesus now talking about? The answer is in the very next verse of John chapter 14 verse 19 saying, "Yet a little while, and the world sees me no more, but you see me. Because I live, you also will live." Conclusion. As we have seen in the biblical facts, how the Helper, in John chapter 14 verse 16 seems to not be a third separate person of the Trinity. But the Helper is the Advocate, which seems to be applied to Jesus. However, you decide. See the full article on the link below.